What's up, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Bleav in Falcons. I'm your host, Will McFadden, here today with a special bye week episode. It has been extremely eventful for the Falcons during this bye week, and we will get into all of that. And here to help me do it is Rob Taylor, one of the hosts of Bleav in Atlanta Sports, and my guest for today's episode. What's up, Rob? How you doing, man?
Oh man, I'm doing great, and I'm happy to be here. Pleased that you guys thought enough of me to have me come on and talk a little Falcons football. I know we've got some exciting news.
We definitely do. But you are not just the guest for today's episode. I've mentioned for listeners of this show who have been following along the whole season. And if you're new here, welcome aboard. Glad to have you. Name tags over there in the back. Grab some refreshments. Next time you come, you have to bring a friend. Those are the rules. But you are not just a guest for today's episode. I will be on paternity leave sometime in the near future. Due dates end of December, but babies are finicky and fickle and they have their own schedule. So whenever I am out, Rob, you're going to be the man stepping in and guiding Ovi on Sundays after the games, doing whatever you want to do with this feed the rest of the way. But is that exciting for you? Talk us through your journey as a Falcons fan.
Oh, it's exciting, but I'm also nervous. I hope I don't run your podcast in the ground and chase everybody off because I can be a little tough on the Falcons fans.
I think they
As
need
far as
that.
I do. I think the Falcons fan base and the Atlanta fan base in general need to be held accountable and need some tough love. And that's why I started our Bleav in Atlanta Sports podcast. It's also on Bleav because just as my journey growing up as a Falcons fan, Atlanta sports fan, there's a lot of great ones like myself and you, my co-host, the commissioner Mark Rich. We're all very kind of level-headed, like-minded fans. But there's also the other ones that as soon as they get wind of something they don't like, or as soon as things don't seem to be going our way, they just go off the rails and just say some of the most insane things and the craziest takes that I've ever seen. And I know they're in other fan bases, but I feel like it's more prevalent down here in Atlanta, and I aim to fix that.
Well, that's good. Bringing a dose of, I guess, hard reality here to the podcast, which we need, because I generally am going to be a little more optimistic, a little more analytical. I try to remove my emotion from it, which I know you do as well. And you and I had a great conversation on Tuesday, kind of in the lead up to this podcast. So I know some of your thoughts, and I agree with a lot of them. But I think that you do get to kind of the point a little bit more than I do, which frankly I'm trying to work on. I'm trying to be more like you and just kind of call it how it is, cut through the crap and lay it all out there. So let's just get to the point of today's big news, right? Marcus Mariota, his
Yeah.
time as a starter done. Desmond Ridder, it's officially the rookies go according to multiple sources. What was your initial reaction when you saw that news?
Man, the first thing that came through my head, because it's kind of been the theme that people have been calling for all year, and it's Ritter time, baby. It's Ritter time. Everybody wanted to know, what do we have? Because you haven't really heard a lot about him. Arthur Smith spoke highly of him in training, said he grasped the playbook well, so he had a great acumen. There were some questions about his arm and accuracy, but we haven't really heard a lot of news stories about what he's doing, with the scout team and how he's progressed throughout the season. It's always just kind of been like, he's here, he's on ice. We're going to bring him out when we think it's ready. And now, seemingly, the Falcons are kind of out of the playoff hunt, probably, or not really, even though they're in second place, probably not in it to win the South. And we're gonna get to see what we have on the road in New Orleans. I mean, what a way to start your Falcons career, on the road in New Orleans as a rookie.
Yeah, that definitely is a going to be an interesting place to start. But I think that ultimately, like this 4 game schedule or 4 game stretch means more for the evaluation purposes than I think maybe Desmond Ritter's confidence in this league, right? If you're going to let a bad 4 games, your rookie year kind of derail your career, then, you probably didn't belong in the NFL to begin with. So, yeah, it's on the road. It's going to be in a hostile environment, but he's going to have to play against the Saints at some point if he's going to be a starter in this league. So, might as well rip the band aid off. And I think that look, the Falcons came into the bye week saying that they were going to have these intense conversations, look at what they needed to do to get this team turned in the right direction. And I do expect them to still kind of say, look, we're in this, even though the Bucks had a miracle win on Monday night, which made things a lot harder for the Falcons in this division. But they're going to say that they're still in it, that, they they kind of, on the one hand, I think, know that they need to see Desmond Ridder before the draft. You got to have some intel on him in an NFL game on a Sunday. But also, is there a chance that Desmond Ridder actually gives this team a better path forward and a better chance for success over these final four games than Marcus Mariota at that point? Do you think some of that could be at play here?
I do. I definitely do. I think it could be a shot in the arm for the team just because it's
I
new
agree.
and exciting, and they're going to get to see this young man come out. And apparently, like I said earlier, he's got great football acumen. He's very mature for his age.
Hmm.
He's got a lot of the soft skills that you look for. And I'm ready to see what he does with this offense. But I also think he could have kind of an easy path. The Saints are down, the Cardinals are down. I think we're going to get a Ravens team minus Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
So I don't want to, hype him up too much, but you just never know in the NFL. He could come in and electrify this team and give them a boost, and they could rip off 4 games and all of a sudden find themselves. I'm not saying that's gonna happen, but I guess if you're a Falcons fan, your dream best case scenario and what you've been calling for all year. I mean, ever since Game 3, I think they were like, "Let's get
Oh,
Desmond in. Let's
yeah.
get Desmond in." So it could happen, and I think it's it's probably not probably it is the most exciting thing going on in Atlanta right now. Is we might be getting a taste and a look at our future here in Atlanta.
Yeah. The Nate McMillan, Trey Young thing, it stole the spotlight last week. It's Desmond Ritter spotlight this week. But I think that Desmond Ritter does give this offense, at least, I think, the best chance for success moving forward, but it doesn't have to do so much with him. I think it has to do with, teams had a little bit of the book on Marcus Mariota in this Falcons offense and how this Falcons offense operated with him at quarterback and the strengths and the weaknesses. And it surprised a lot of teams, I think, early on. But we've seen 4 of these last 5 games, all 4 losses, the offense couldn't get over 20 points. And the defense has actually held its opponents under 20 points. So it's kind of one of these where if the offense had just done a little bit more and they've had chances in these games late, we're maybe not sitting here at 5-8 talking about this change. Marcus Mariota probably still has his job, all of that stuff. So I don't think that I'm looking at Desmond Ritter to come in and single handedly change everything, even though he may be the only single change to this offense. I think it's more about what it allows Arthur Smith to do and what it allows his coaching staff to do in now you can build over this bye week an offense that teams have not seen and will only really have a couple game sample size by the time it's late in the year. You're Tampa Bay. If that game is for the division, you only have really 3 games of an offense with Desmond Ritter at the helm to study. And I just think that's a little bit of a tactical advantage that the Falcons had at the beginning of the year and used so well that they really haven't had lately, and it's cost them. So I think that there's part of that in play here. What do you think about obviously not having Kyle Pitts, the weaponry around Desmond Ritter? Are you a little concerned? Do you expect him to just like lock totally on Drake London and be like, Drake, you're my boy. Here you go. Here's the ball. Or what do you think from that standpoint?
I'm afraid he's going to try too hard
Mm,
to impress and be good. I'm afraid he may take some chances and some risks and kind of put himself out there running the football, which in the NFL, even in college, but I'd say more so in the NFL, when you tuck that thing and take off, you are opening yourself up
yeah.
to a lot of different scenarios. I think my question is we all saw what he had in college. I think he was undefeated at home. He was like 44-6. What does he do well? What does he do the best? And
Right.
is it like a secret? I mean, is Desmond Ritter, is this why Arthur Smith hasn't said so much? Is he like the best kept secret in the NFL? And they're going to see some new wrinkles and they're going to throw some things at the Saints and everybody else. And I wonder, is Desmond Ritter, you hear it in baseball and other sports all the time. These young guys come up and they start to shine and you hear the announcer go, well, they don't know any better. They don't know
Yeah.
they're not supposed to be doing this,
Yeah.
because they're young, they're confident, and I got to tell you, I've been saying all year, like, hey, Mariota's the guy until he's not the guy. So let's support him. Let's get behind him. We don't need to see Ritter yet, but now I'm fully on board. Like Mariota had his time. It is Ritter time, and I'm excited. And that's the message I want to give to Falcons fans. He's a rookie. It's his first game. Give him time. Go easy on him. You Atlanta fans are really tough And
Yeah,
you're going to have high expectations. So just lower your expectations a little bit, and let's just let it unfold. And this is going to take us into next season. But I also wonder, is this kind of did they do it to see what they have to maybe manipulate the draft? Like what do we
right.
have? Do we need to take a quarterback? Let's get a sample size of this guy in action and see how we need to plan out the springtime when that happens.
So let's kind of follow with that, right? Because I do think that that is 100% part of this is not only as we're building a team, because the one thing that nobody can criticize the Falcons for this year is that they clearly knew what type of team they had to have this year. And they went and built that type of team. Arthur Smith knew the type of offense he was going to run. They got the kind of pieces in here, and defensively, Dean Pease said, all right, like if we're going to get a bunch of 1 year contract guys, like these are the types of guys that I need. And I think Terry Fontenot did a good job of bringing those guys in here to at least have a year's worth of success, even if it looks funky at times, even if it's not conventional. They kind of knew what they had to work with. And I think that that is very important because you need to know what style of game is Desmond Ridder comfortable playing. Can he run the ball like Marcus Mariota? Does he have the same instincts, even if he's not maybe as athletic, that allows him to get a step on a defender to, maximize his athleticism, all things like that. And so having a 4 game sample size, which used to be a quarter of the season and damn near still is, like that's enough. That's enough to know, okay, is this guy a career backup? Is this guy a fringe starter? Is this guy, a full blown starter? And the coaching staff has part of that information from practice, but seeing in the game is an entirely different level. What do you think? Like if Desmond Ridder goes 0-4 in this stretch, what will your mindset be? And then on the flip side, if he goes 4-0, obviously the Falcons are probably in the playoffs if he goes 4-0 as a starter. But what are those two polars like for you?
I think it depends on the manner in which they lose those 4 games if that happens.
That's fair.
Are
Yeah.
there silver linings? What did he do in the game? What was the score? You know, and I think it's going to be, hey, he had us in those 4 games. But, Cordero Patterson could hold on to the football or the defense broke down. As
Yeah.
long as you can't look at those 4 losses and point to him and go, he did it. But at the same time, it's that, oh God, it's so tough just because he's a rookie. And it's like, well, what do you think was going to happen?
Right.
And
Yeah.
you can always have those crazy success stories where somebody comes in and just is a house of fire and goes nuts, kind of like the guy that comes out of nowhere in the wrestling match, and just comes out and clears the ring out and goes crazy. Like that could happen. But I think as long as he makes better decisions than Marcus Mariota, takes care of the football, and he's not the reason they're losing games, even if they go 0-4, I think they just go, hey, now you got a taste of the NFL, kid, but we can build on it. As long as they see positives when they break down that film, as long as there's things to build on, I think he'll be fine. Now, if he goes 4-0, the city of Atlanta will probably elect him to be the next mayor, and people will
Not
be
another
getting Falcon
election.
Super
No,
Bowl
no, Rob, we don't
tattoos.
need another election.
Yeah, yeah, we've had enough for now.
We definitely have. I mean, the team didn't ask Marcus Mariota to do too much, right? Like it was usually 24 passes, maybe a game. He'd complete 13 of them for 196 yards with a touchdown and a pick. Like that's not a big day at the office for any quarterback in this league, and it's not a big heavy workload. I wonder because, Desmond Ritter's still an athlete. We saw that at the combine. We saw that while he was at Cincinnati, but I don't know if he is the natural runner that Marcus Mariota is. So, could you see them maybe tweaking slightly that the things that they asked Marcus to do, which was partially with his legs and partially with his arm, could you see that being like 75-25 with Desmond's arm versus his legs? You think they're still going to incorporate this, zone read, let him pull it, get a first down on a 3rd and 6. Like, what kind of trust in Desmond Ritter, the runner, do you think this offense will show? Because it's been really heavily involved at the quarterback position so far.
I don't know. I was wondering that, kind of out loud to myself earlier today, like how much of the offense is going to kind of be scripted for him. I
Exactly.
wouldn't
Yeah.
think they would give him a lot of freedom with the football, but it'll just be interesting to see how they handle it. I couldn't really imagine, what they're going to do with him. I know it's not going to be, hey, kid, get out there and let it rip. But, I've never even liked the running quarterbacks. All I've ever wanted from a quarterback in Atlanta or any team, I just don't like running quarterbacks in the NFL. I think they can do well. Historically, they don't do well. Oh, after a few years, they take some licks and, it affects their game. Can you extend plays with your legs? And the answer is yes. You don't need to tuck it and run for 20 yards,
Yeah.
but can you scramble out of the pocket? Can you just get outside the box and extend plays and make something happen out of nothing? If a play blows up, do you have what it takes to kind of scramble around and look for another alternative and keep the play alive? That's all I want him to do.
Who was your favorite quarterback, or I guess like of all time?
Well, some people are probably going to turn it off after they hear this, but in my mind and in my opinion, Peyton Manning is hands down the greatest quarterback that has ever played the game of football.
I
Just his
I
his his
tend to
brain,
agree.
his
Yeah.
acumen, his leadership, like everything. I know he doesn't have the hardware and all the stuff. He has 2 Super Bowls with 2 different teams, and I know he didn't have a lot of the hardware that Brady has, but I'm telling you, he's the best I've ever seen. And I'm old enough that I saw Montana and Marino and a lot of these Phil Simms. The list goes on and on. But for my money, Peyton Manning's the greatest quarterback I've ever seen play the game. Period.
Yeah. I mean, for a long time there, when it was, 2007, 2008, 2009, like the peak Brady Manning years, even though Brady was getting the hardware, I was like, yeah, but I still think that for all that you need a quarterback to do, like Peyton Manning does everything. Like the Colts, their offense was just like line it up and let Peyton call the play. Brady's
Mhm.
not Brady's not doing that. Now Brady executes the plays extreme. Like I'm not going to sit here. He doesn't need me to defend him here on this Falcons
Yeah.
podcast, but no, I tend to agree with you. As I've been a big fan of Peyton Manning's throughout his career. You like the Manning cast? You ever watch
Oh
that?
my god, it's hilarious. And what's crazy to think is that the Patriots almost put themselves in a position to get Peyton Manning. Can you imagine what that dynasty, as great as it was with Brady, what it would have been like with Peyton Manning? It's almost like they would have just won the Super Bowl for a decade.
I
You know?
wonder though what the Manning Belichick relationship would have been like. Like would have Peyton have respected the hell out of Bill and said, "Hey, like this guy is a genius and like he gets it, so I'm going to go to the mat for him in practice every single like because I think Brady did a lot of stuff that, quarterbacks in other spots like don't necessarily have to do because of how demanding that coach is and like he obviously has like incredible innate like fire and competitiveness, but like so does Peyton. So I just wonder Peyton having the free reign to really run the show in Indy, him in New England where everything is under the thumb of Bill Belichick, would that have meshed as well as it did with him and Brady?
Man, I think it probably would have ended up being a balance of power because he would have ended up showing Belichick what he could do, and it would have been kind of a maybe it would have been kind of like a Magneto Professor Xavier,
Ooh, good
relationship to
comp.
where they were kind of adversaries, but they have that mutual respect, and it somehow works when they need it to.
Yeah. No, that's a great comp. They're so both incredibly powerful on their own, but it's like, all right, put them together. Let's see.
Yeah.
Um, all right. So, any final thoughts on the Desmond Ritter news today? Does it change your outlook, I guess, for this team over the final four games?
I think it just gives me more of a reason to watch, honestly, because I
Yeah,
knew it. I just really thought if they kept Mariota in there, it just would have been a very anticlimactic end of the season. And now we've kind of, because it seemingly the playoffs are done, we're out of that division hunt. It's like, well, we got to see what this kid does. So we got to tune in because there's and myself included, a lot of Falcons fans. They get down to those last 3 games of the season, and there's something different going on a Sunday. They're like, well, yeah, I'll take off. But now everybody's going to be tuning in to see what the new kid can do, and to see kind of give us a glimpse of how our season's going to begin next year and how it's going to work.
dude, tell me about it, man. From 2017 to 2020, those last few years, especially being in the press box in like week 15 when the Falcons are playing Detroit, and it's like, all right, they announced the attendance here is 67,452. It's like I could literally from the press box count how many people are in this stadium. Like
Yeah.
they start checking out, and I mean I get it, but that's a great point. They're not going to do that this year because it's almost like for all those that have wanted draft season to start early and for the Falcons to be in the running for the top pick. They kind of still are, but now it's like draft season all over again because you get to watch your rookie that everybody really cares about make his first snap. So, yeah, from that standpoint, it's at least exciting. But we're going to wrap up here today with what was going to be our topic before the Desmond Ridder news broke. So I'm glad that we held this podcast just a little bit so that we could touch upon that. But we're going to do a little bit of a naughty and nice list here at the bye week from the first 13 games of the Falcons season. Basically, this is just going to be three things that we like from the first, I guess, preceding the bye week, and then three things that we don't like. So, because I may not be here for Christmas, naughty and nice. There we go. It's Christmas themed. Everybody can be happy, and it'll be festive. So, I'm going to start with you, Rob. We're going to start with our naughty, and then we'll end with nice. But give me, I guess, number 3 on your naughty list. I don't know if you numbered them in any order or not.
Oh
Like,
yeah, I've got it right here.
all right,
So
cool. Well,
and
give me number
and
3 then.
number 3 on my naughty list, just from all the Twitter interactions on my account and our podcasts, are the fans.
There you go. Call
I
them
mean,
out.
you guys, yeah, I mean, I'm telling you, and it's not everybody, but a large portion of the fan base, not even 5 games into this season, was saying we've got to, Arthur and Terry are not the combo. Arthur's not the guy. What are we doing? And I'm here going, nobody else is thinking that but you. Calm down. Look what they're dealing with. These guys got the bad news bears, and they've done pretty well with them. They're not dealing with the best talent. I mean, Atlanta, there was a time where they didn't have a lot of trade capital. Thomas Dimitrov destroyed us cap wise. So to be able to do what they've done, and kind of a lot of the fan base reacting negatively, and kind of, making these assessments and these assumptions and these statements that they know better than Arthur Smith and Terry Fontenot, just really irks me. So I want to tell everybody, as fans, just kind of take your fan hat off if you can, and try to tuck that heart back into your sleeve and just look at it from a standpoint of how the players see it in the locker room and how the coaches see it, and just
Yep.
be patient, trust the process, let things unfold before you go all crazy. So I won't spend too much time on that, but Falcons fans, we can be better. We can be more supportive. We're the 12th man. Let's get after it. Number 2 on the naughty list, obviously, I hate to say it because I know he's a really nice guy. I've never met him, but I've, through interviews and whatnot, Marcus Mariota, you're on the naughty list. Honestly, because a lot of the games that are in that L column, they're his fault. His
Really,
inability to,
his
to take
fault.
care of the.
You're
Well, I won't say his fault alone, but like that Saints game, that first Saints game,
yeah.
the Commanders game, it's a lot of the things that he did and the decisions that he made that kind of kept us from out of the game. Now, it's a team. You win as a team, you lose as a team, but you can also point the dirty end of the stick that, yeah, in some of those games, the problem has been the quarterback play.
Yeah, and I agree with
Now,
that.
I hope Marcus, stays around here and helps get, Ridder prepped, or finds his, new
Now he's
life
entering the
somewhere
transfer
else.
portal as we
Yeah.
speak.
And number 1 on my naughty list, and I know, you hear Kirby Smart say this week in and week out. It's tough to go into somebody's house and win on the road, and the Falcons' road record this year is abysmal at
Mm,
1-5. So if they just could have figured out a formula to pick up another couple of road wins, we're very much in the hunt. They're 4-3 at home. And
yep.
that's my naughty list. Falcons got to work on that road record next year for sure to be competitive. It's easy to win at home in front of the home team, but getting out on the road, you got to improve on that.
Two comments there. It's a good thing that their next 2 games are on the road, so that makes me feel very very good. Great start to Desmond Ritter's run there. And then secondly, you're making me feel great about this choice. Already 2 jabs at the fan base in your first appearance. I love it. That's the sound of all the dials being turned down. So
Yeah.
it's great. No, I love it. All right, so I'll give my naughty list here. Let's see. Number 3 on my list. You kind of mentioned this, the late game fumbles. So I went more specifically with just, thinking back to Drake London in that Chargers game, thinking back to, Avery Williams, Cordero Patterson, like some of these, not those weren't necessarily late game, but certainly Marcus Mariota at times Definitely. I At one point I want to say it was like he had 6 fumbles and all of them had come in the second half and like 4 of them had come in the fourth quarter and that was maybe through like the first 7 games or something. So yeah, it definitely has held the team back at times, especially in these one score games. So I think that we're pretty aligned on that there. Number 2, and this is a player for me as well, and it's just because I had such high expectations for him coming into the year, but it's Ade Ogundeji, the second year kind of outside linebacker, defensive end hybrid, who I really thought was going to be a huge boost to Atlanta's run defense. I went back and I rewatched the Steelers game. There's a big Najee Harris run that almost should have been a touchdown if Najee doesn't fall and trip on his own while making a cut. But Ade is supposed to set the edge there. He doesn't. He just gets washed inside, and it too often, and especially given Atlanta's tackling issues this season, they've let people get to the exterior of the defense, and I think that Ade in his second year, hopefully, it's a little bit of a learning curve. I don't know the role they have for him, but it's just not what I expected out of him this year after what I thought was a really strong rookie season. And so the number one on my naughty list is the referee at the end of the Bucks game. We're not letting him go. We're not letting him slide. You know, we are down here, and it is neck and neck in a bad NFC South between the Falcons and the Bucks. That was a game where the Falcons should have at least gotten one last opportunity at the ball. I'm not saying that they would have won the game. I'm not saying that everything would be totally different without that call. All I'm saying is that I hated that call and I think they got robbed. And it was bullcrap. And we've seen way worse tackles on the quarterback. And it happened to be Tom Brady and his geriatric ass. And the Falcons got a rough call out of that. So if it does come down to Falcons Bucks at the end of the season, and there is something to play for, I think we're all going to be looking back at that game and really wondering what could have happened. So
Oh yeah,
those are my
payback
3.
for
That's my
sure
naughty
is
list.
due. All right, so is
100%.
it back to me with the nice?
Yeah, let's do your nice list.
So my nice list, and this is a pretty good one. Even though they kind of had some laundry out on the field during the Steelers game, but the Falcons this year were one of the least penalized teams in all of football. So that's something you can hang your hat on. That speaks to their discipline. That speaks to
Yeah.
Arthur Smith and his staff, which kind of leads me into my number 2 on the nice list. Arthur Smith and his staff, what they've been able to do and the production that they've been able to get out of some of these players. That, let's not kid each other, there's not a lot of top tier NFL talent, but some people will go, "What do you mean he only won 5 games?" Well,
Mhm.
Vegas had us at 2 games. Some other people had 4 games. So for him to be, and you look at the Rams game. I mean, we were in that game. How they fought back. The
Yeah.
players and everybody have bought in, and despite knowing it was probably going to be one of those seasons with a lot of just learning moments, and we're probably not going to be that good year after, not year after year, week after week. I see Arthur Smith putting a team out there, and they fight every week,
Mhm.
regardless of their record. They fight every week, and that's why I'm excited to have him here and have him be here for the foreseeable future.
Well,
And the
and
number one.
they have game plans, right? Like they have game plans I think for each game, which is kind of to your point. It keeps them in every game. They never feel like they're out of it because they always feel like we knew what this team was going to do. We have a plan in place to at least counteract some of it and let's just get to work. I just never felt like that at the end of Dan Quinn's run. You know, that this team had oh, we knew exactly what they were. Okay, like cool. We've practiced for this. We've prepped for this. It was more just we know what we want to do. Like we'll see what they're going to do, right? And I
Mhm.
think Arthur Smith deserves a lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I'm super happy that he's here. I think he's going to do great things. And again, there's we can't go too much longer, but there's just a couple of key pieces. I think he's very close as long as Terry Fontenot and company can do their job in the offseason and the Falcons can execute a
Yeah.
great draft. Man, I think we're going to be back to the the glory years of the 1998s and the 2016s and all the great stuff. And then so number 1 on my list, and I said it the whole time. I was like, well, let's see what he does next year. But Cordero Patterson, I mean, what a story! Just to
Hmm.
have a comeback year, and then he comes back in his second year in Atlanta, does it again. So it sure does look like we have a solid. I still say we need a marquee feature back, but he's certainly kind of my buddy Mark Rich on our show. He calls him the Swiss Army knife of the Falcons offense, and I just really see him being an important piece moving down the line. I think he's going to be somebody that's going to finish up his career here in Atlanta and be a part of something special.
I think it's a great call. And I think Cordero Patterson has definitely been, maybe not. as good as last year, but the injuries have certainly played a role in that. But I think he's been better than, those who were pessimistic and maybe saying it was a 1 year kind of wonder and that he was old and then maybe it was going to all decline. Like he certainly still has it, and the Falcons are still a good team with him out there. So that's an awesome, nice list. I think you hit on some very key things, and I'm glad we actually don't overlap, which means that there's plenty of positives, I guess, for this Falcons team. So my number three is Darren Hall, which may be surprising to some people because he hasn't like jumped off the page or anything. But the Falcons really were in a tough spot there at a critical point in the season when both AJ Terrell and Casey Hayward go down pretty much at the exact same time. And Darren Hall was already slotted to kind of step in when Hayward went down as the number two corner. But then with AJ going down, he's at times had to be your number one. For most of the season, he's been your number two. And I think that he's been really solid. He has held his own against a lot of good wide receivers when teams, are maybe not throwing to AJ Terrell as much. I think he's been one of the more reliable tacklers in the secondary. And so for it just being his second season, I think that he has at least shown bare minimum like he can be a serviceable number two corner and probably an amazing like fourth corner. Maybe not like your slot, but just hey, you're the next man off the bench. Darren Hall absolutely is a home run there, and he's still young and still growing. So I think that for a team that a couple of years ago looked cornerback starved, they are actually building something nice, I think, in the secondary. My number two is another group or area of this defense that forever has been a weakness. Hopefully, it gets better moving forward. But Arnold Ebiketie, the second round pick this April, I think has been really, really good so far as a rookie. I mean, he is right now fourth in total pressures among rookies. And when I say, you know, this group, because it's actually turning out to be a really good rookie pass rushing group. You got guys like Trayvon Walker, Kayvon Thibodeau, Aiden Hutchinson, obviously George Karlaftis, like and Arnold Ebiketie. That's been kind of like the core five. So he's fourth among that, and he's tied with Trayvon Walker among rookies in total pressures. And he has the fewest snaps among those top five that I just mentioned. So he's really been effective on a per snap basis. He's got he's got a lot of nice moves. I saw him execute a spin move against the Steelers that I really, or not the Steelers, the game before because he was out against the Steelers, but that I didn't think he had in his bag. And so he's just developing. I think he'll make a huge leap from rookie to sophomore year here in Atlanta because that's usually what pass rushers do. And of course, getting help around him will be huge for his development as well. But as a single player, like I really couldn't be more pleased with what Arnold Ebiketie has done, and they really needed to get somebody like this. I think for the defense, number one for me though is flipping sides to the offense, the offensive line. I mean, to me, that is the single positive for this entire season is the offensive line, and it is not even close. They're the number one run blocking unit on PFF by like a wide margin as a team. I mean, it's 83.9 is their grade. The second place team in the NFL is a 75.9 grade. So that is, 7-8 points higher than the second place team. Like far and away, the Falcons have the best run blocking offensive line this season. They're the number two run offense in the NFL on a yards per game basis. And they've got their number three in adjusted line yards, according to Football Outsiders, which is, as it sounds, the yards accounted for by the line, which is just under 5 yards. I mean, this offensive line is basically getting their running backs 5 yards by the time they really have to do anything themselves. So I think that the individual members of this team, Chris Lindstrom, is the highest graded guard in PFF this season in the entire NFL. I mean, he should be in the Pro Bowl. He's probably the one Pro Bowler on this roster. And then you look at guys like Jake Matthews and Caleb McGarry, who Caleb, on the one hand, didn't get his fifth-year contract picked up, but I think he has had his best season by far as a Falcon and generally looks good at right tackle. Jake Matthews has been here forever, is a leader, but has been, again, really, really solid for Atlanta this season. Need to figure out center and left guard, in my opinion. I think Drew Dalman could be something, but of the offensive line mainstays, he's been the weakest. And then left guard, it's just been a little bit of a rotation that I think they will figure out eventually. But yeah, the offensive line, like night and day, dude. Last year we were sitting here at the draft talking about offensive line help, pass rush help is maybe like the two biggest areas. Nah, the offensive line has turned into a real strength. And I think that does go back to Arthur Smith to your point is like what this coaching staff has been able to change to obviously figure something out because the guys have been kind of the same guys
And if I'm not mistaken, Arthur was an O lineman at North
at
Carolina,
North Carolina.
so
Yeah.
that might
So
have
he
a little
knows what he's
something to
doing.
do with it. And I also wonder, have we seen the last of Jalen Mayfield? It kind of seems like
It's tough.
he was very highly touted, but he has just gotten knocked around. I think also worth mentioning that Chris Lindstrom is the Falcons' Walter Payton Man of the Year
Yes.
award nominee this year, so that's cool too. And that's the key, that's the key to, I think, to any winning franchise, or one of the
Walter Payton
bigger
Mans of the
keys.
Years.
Well, no, offensive line. You got to have that good O line down in the trenches. Just imagine if the Falcons could have gotten anything going with their passing game, where they might be.
Yeah,
You have such a great offensive line, and your run game has been pretty darn good. But if the Falcons have just been kind of one dimensional. It's been like, well, we
they
can run
have.
it and we can kind of pass it, and I can't wait to get Kyle Pitts and Desmond Ridder on the same field just to see what they can do
I
together.
know.
I know Drake London's there, but I'm just ready for. Here's my thing: get Pitts back. You got Drake London in year two. Maybe you line up Cordell in the slot or some plays out of the backfield, but and a feature back. I think the Falcons are very, very close on offense, closer on offense than they are on defense as far as fielding a competitive team that can play for a championship. That's for sure.
Interesting. That might have to be a whole second podcast that we do because that I would maybe
That
take
was an
on that
eyebrow.
debate.
I saw your eyebrows just raise up like,
Yeah,
oh my god, what is he talking about? I don't
I'd
know if
I'd
I
maybe
don't know.
I'd maybe
I
take
don't
you
know
on
if I
that
want this guy
debate.
running my show anymore.
No, because I mean I can see that, and I think what's fun is like we'll get a chance to see Desmond Ridder over these next 4 weeks. Like we're not going to have to guess anymore and say, well, maybe the offense could be better, or maybe this passing game could be better. Like we're going to get a chance to see, all right, can this passing game elevate and match the run game? Can this offensive line, is it easier to block for a Desmond Ridder who maybe will stand in the pocket a little bit more than a Marcus Mariota? Like we're going to get a chance to kind of get answers to a lot of these questions, which is really exciting. And so I'm really looking forward to, even if I won't be on this podcast, you guys can believe that I will still be watching every single game. And whenever I return, I'll have plenty of takes for you guys. So, Rob, anything that you want to let everybody know before we get out of here?
Not really. Just thanks for the opportunity. Thanks to Jen Duddleston, to you, Ovi, and I'm glad you guys thought of me to help me kind of sit in and maybe if you're having a quiet day, we can get you on as a
Maybe.
guest on your own show, and you can show the world the newest McFadden.
Maybe we'll may have to run that by the wife, or maybe we won't. And maybe when they're both napping, we'll sneak on
Remember
and do a
this:
very quiet ASMR related podcast.
better
So
to beg forgiveness than ask permission.
exactly. All right. Well, today's podcast was presented as always by Bet Online. Thank you so much, Rob, for hopping on and joining me. That's it for our bye week episode. The Falcons will be back in action next Sunday to take on the Saints in New Orleans, and Desmond Ridder will make his first career start. But until then, everybody, take care.